Okay, so we have covered actually almost all the AI related functionalities, but we haven't quite focused on the user interface level implementation, right? So if you simulate the game or play the game, you can see our level is there and our workers are working and the AI behaviors are working properly. Everything is there, but there are no user interface related artifacts, right? So you can see even the resource harvesting amounts are just show as integer numbers by using this print string function, right? But ideally this is not what we want. We need some sort of a user friendly interface to display those values. So today let's see how we can do that. But first I need to do a quick bug fix. Actually this is a very simple bug fix, which is this camera position seems invalid, right? So we are in very long distance and we can't actually see what our workers are doing and stuff like that. So actually the issue is at the camera pawn. So if you disable the hidden of this cube, you will see what happened exactly. So actually this is our pawn, right? The camera pawn, and it's not placed on the ground, right? Instead of that, it has been placed in a distant location, right? This happened because we doesn't have a player start component in this map, right? So if you search the component hierarchy, or maybe start, see, you can't see any player start component. So actually in order to fix that, it's quite easy. All we have to do is just drag and drop this player start component to your map, and let's play it again. Okay, now you see our camera pawn is at the correct position, right? And we can now see what our workers are doing, and all the stuffs are working properly, right? Okay, so let's disable this cube visibility because we don't need to visualize it at the game. It just exists for the debugging purposes. And let's play it. Okay, so now it seems fine. So as the first step of our UI related activities, let's first go to our UI folder, and I'll create a new folder called resource, and maybe I'll name it as the full level resources, and let's create a user interface widget called wb resource bar. And I'll open that up. Okay, and let's first add a vertical box, and I'll make the anchoring as yeah, maybe I'll delete everything, even the canvas, and let's start with an oval, and then let's add a vertical box on top of that overlay, and I'll make the horizontal and vertical alignment as full or fill. Okay, so now we need to visualize some sort of a resource bar on top of this panel. So let's add a size box. Sorry, let's add a size box of height maybe 50, right? And let's add an overlay here as well, and let's add a border, and I'll make it fill, and as the border color brush color, I'll choose black, and maybe alpha, I'll keep it as 0.2, right? Or maybe I will use some sort of a gray white color. Okay, so this seems fine. Okay, and then we need to visualize this resource bar component in our HUD, right? So in order to do that, actually we can directly add that to the HUD, where we have our game base and RTS game HUD. We can directly add that logic over here, but instead of that, I would like to have much more modular fashion, which means we are going to use actor components. So we can actually easily attach those actor components to our HUD, and it will be quite easy to manage our in-game logics, right? Also, if you are going to migrate this project to a different package, having such actor components will be quite easy as well. Okay, so let's go to the components, and I'll create a new actor component called maybe epcom RTS game, and I'll simply name it as HUD. Okay, so inside this HUD actor component, I'll create a new custom event called Initialize HUD, right? And at the initialization phase, we can visualize some sort of a HUD in our game, right? So actually, let's first create the base HUD widget component. So instead of directly visualizing this resource bar, we can have some sort of a master reference to our HUD. So let's create that. I'll call maybe WB HUD, and actually we don't need to implement anything over here, but later on actually if we want, we can improve this up, but for now this will just exist as a basic widget. And at the initialize HUD, let's create a widget, and let's select this WB HUD, and I'll promote it to a variable called HUD. Okay. Okay. And let's add it to the viewport. Right. And then we need to focus our input mode for this UI. So we can do that simply by grabbing our HUD reference, and let's get our player controller and set input mode game and UI. So for a certain level of extent, we may be able to control our user interface as well as our game, right, by using the same player controller inputs. Okay, and also we need to show our mouse cursor, right? So if you remember, whenever we play our game, previously it wasn't showing any mouse cursor, but now since we are going to interact with the user interface and all, we need to show our mouse cursor as well, right? So I'll comment this thing as create master HUD user interface, and focus the game plus UI, right? So both game and user interface will be focused. And then I'll create a widget for our resource bar, and maybe I'll promote this to a variable as well. So if you want, we can call this reference as well later on. So I'll call this as resource bar reference, and let's set that reference to viewport. Okay, and I'll comment this thing as well, call create resource bar. And then now we have to attach this actor component to our HUD. So let me quickly check my documentation. Okay, yeah. So let's add this actor component. Let's search RTS BP component RTS game HUD. Okay, and then actually we can call this function within this HUD, or we can actually go to a different section as well. So first let me quickly check my documentation. Yeah, so actually there are two approaches. So first I will show you the most obvious scenario, and then let's do a different approach as well. But yeah, so the most simple case is basically you can show our HUD at the BP HUD, and I can call like maybe initialize HUD, right? So this is the simplest case. So now if you play the game now, you may be able to see this black bar on top of your game, right, which is our resource bar. Okay, so this is the most obvious scenario where you can show your HUD, but there's a better approach, which means you can create a game state, and when running your game you can invoke that initialization, right? And it will be the best practice that we have to follow, right? So I'll use this game state, and actually game state is some sort of a monolithic component that you can use in your game to store those sort of common functionalities or even common variables, right? And this game state should be assigned at the game mode as well. So I think in the very early stage of tutorials we have created this game mode, and we have assigned this game state as the game state class, right? And then that game state class can be invoked over here. Okay, so in the game state we can call that initialization of our HUD. Basically all we have to do is get our player controller and get HUD, and then we can get component by class, which is BP comp RTS game HUD, and if we have a valid reference we can use it on the begin play for the initialization of our HUD. Alright, so I'll comment this thing as initialize HUD. Okay, and now at the HUD level we don't need this initialization anymore, otherwise it will be initialized 2 times, which may lead to some overlappings as well. So we don't need to run that, and instead of that, and now our game state will lift the state of our user interface, right? So when the game is running, it will execute this function. Let's try to simulate it again. Play it again. Okay, now you can see there is a small bar which we can use to show our resource related values, right? So I know this is a very simple thing, and most of you, if you have some sort of experience in Unreal Engine, most of you will be able to even do this within a few seconds, right? Because this is just visualizing a HUD, but we have gone through a lot of stages, right? We have created a vector component, and we have attached it to the HUD, and then we have initialized it by using the game state, right? So that's the way we have to do, because when our game logic is getting more and more complex, if we doesn't have a proper architecture, our game will be not be optimized, right? And there will be certain amount of bugs as well, right? So I always encourage you to follow these sort of best practices in the industry. Then you can create a proper sort of game, right? So actually, why even that simple widget initialization has been done using certain steps, right? And later on you will see actually how much this is beneficial is. For instance, when it comes to save and load system, we need to read certain values that has been stored at our save games. So these sort of initializations, we can use this game state, and we can directly invoke our initializations, right? But yeah, we will see those stuff in future tutorials. But yeah, so I think for this tutorial, this stuff will be enough, otherwise this video will be quite longer. And yeah, so in the next tutorial we'll keep improve our user interface, and I'll see you there. Thank you.